past weekend, Phantom Menace was re-released in theaters for its 25th anniversary. And Star Wars, the fan base over the last several years, it would be generous to describe it as contentious. There's some conflict, there's some disgruntled Star Wars fans, and it's caused a lot of people, in light of Disney Star Wars, our frustrations, to maybe reevaluate the prequels a little bit. And with Phantom Menace back in theaters, got a lot of people talking about it. I'm joined today by the Cobra Kai Kid. This is a fun one because you weren't even born when Phantom Menace came out. You are that the whole generation raised after it came out. I was there opening weekend when it came out. So the question is it better than its reputation? Is it better than people remember it being? I can bring the take of my generation. You can bring that younger generation, as well as you just rewatched it in the theater. So real quick, what's your experience with Star Wars and in particular the Phantom Menace?
Yeah, so for me, Star Wars episodes 1 through 6 were together. There was no prequel trilogy, original trilogy. It was just all together. I grew up on the Lego Star Wars video game, which had all 6 movies.
Yep.
And for me personally, as a young kid growing up, which had more lightsabers? The prequels. So I was always into the prequels. I did
My
like
son's favorite is Attack of the Clones. That's because he likes characters with helmets.
Heck
so
yeah.
Which movie has the most helmets and droids and stuff like that? Attack of the Clones.
Honestly, Attack of the Clones is in my top 3. Love Attack of the Clones. But as I've gotten older, I've really started to appreciate the original trilogy more as stories. And I do think the original trilogy works more story-wise. Except Revenge of the Sith is freaking phenomenal. I absolutely love the prequels, though. And, like, I think the prequels add so much lore. And, I mean, with every Star Wars film, there's escapism. And that's what I love about it. And, yeah, it was really cool seeing Phantom Menace for my very first time in theaters. Because I've seen some of the other movies in theaters for re-releases. But Phantom Menace, first time, that was surreal.
Mm-hmm. It's like I'm that generation that grew up on the original trilogy but wasn't in the theater for the original trilogy. So I remember when there started being murmurs that George Lucas was going to do like a special edition of the original trilogy and add scenes in, because this is super early internet where you didn't have, as soon as something's announced, it's everywhere on the internet. That wasn't a thing. And so we just heard like murmurs that he was doing it, and then it was, he's also writing a new trilogy of films. And they dropped the trailer on the internet. But these are the dial-up days. Like, do you have any memories of dial-up at all, or is that totally past your life or prior to your life? Exactly. And so, to download the trailer, because it was literally over phone lines. You'd have to plug your computer with a modem into the phone lines and use that, and it would work. Like a fast modem was 56K per second, 56K per second, not megs, not gigs, K. So the trailer that would be like 250 megabytes would take hours and hours to download. And your hard drive wasn't big enough that you could store a file that was 250 megabytes for a long period of time because it would eat up too much of your hard drive. So we would sit there, download the trailer overnight for Phantom Menace, and it was the greatest trailer that we'd ever seen. It was just jaw-dropping incredible. Like, there's a double-sided lightsaber, and some of the effects in it, like, you take for granted how incredible they looked 25 years ago in this trailer. That in this trailer, those trailers also, on YouTube, it would be equivalent of 240. Like, it was like so low res. We thought, wow, this is amazing. And it only took 8 hours to download. So opening weekend, it comes out. I couldn't go Monday or Saturday, or Monday. Where did Monday come in? Friday or Saturday, and they didn't do the Thursday night opening. That's only 10 years old. So they did like literal midnight screenings Thursday night at 12:01. They did screenings, and then Friday, Saturday, and my coworkers at the Chick-fil-A worked at saw it, and they're like, I don't know, it's if you don't expect the other ones, it's a little bit different. And so I'd heard murmurs that people weren't entirely wowed by it, and then I went to go see it on Sunday, and at the time it came out, Titanic came out just a couple years before and was the highest grossing film of all time. And so the whole Star Wars fan base was basically unifying to try and make Phantom Menace beat Titanic at the box office. So like I'm daily tracking web pages that are like, this is how much money it made and here's how it was tracking ahead of Titanic for a long time because Titanic had great legs, whereas Star Wars was very front loaded. And then Phantom Menace was not able to beat Titanic. But I was fully in that world, and I was on board with Phantom Menace when it came out. I was on board with Attack of the Clones when it came out. Sometime after Attack of the Clones, my cynical 20-something pretentious phase started, so I started to turn on the prequels. And when I saw Revenge of the Sith in the theater, I laughed at it. When Vader goes, no! I was in the theater laughing out loud. I was a total obnoxious jerk at the time, /awesome. But that, like, I was in that phase of life. And so that's kind of my perspective. I'm of the generation who's like, oh, the prequels, George, what did you do? What went wrong here? I'll say this, though. With time and having seen what corporate Star Wars can look like, there's stuff from Disney that's been good, but it's treated as a property that they can exploit to raise their stock price. And so, like, when Force Awakens came out, they openly were like, look at all of our toys that we have. Some of them were awesome. I still have my remote control BB-8.
Yeah, that's dope.
They discontinued the firmware or the software, the app for it. And so the creators of the app itself, they're like, we want you still to use it. So they have like the hack code version of it, so I can still kind of control it. But 8 years later, it still works a little. 9 years later, it still works a little bit. But they openly were trying to just sell toys, and they openly stated that. Star Wars has been doing that for a long time, but they stated it. They like literally had like a day. Here's all the toys you can buy for Christmas Day. That was a show that in 2015 they did that, and then they put out so many different TV shows. It just feels like they're like throwing stuff at the wall, trying to guess what'll work, because it's being driven by people trying to maximize profits rather than by a storyteller. And you go back, George Lucas, he made choices clearly with the prequels, even with Return of the Jedi, to try and sell toys. There were changes made to sell toys. But he also spent years studying mythology and had ideas that, like, he had a story he wanted to tell. That was first. And then he's like, how can we tweak it to sell more toys and connect with... And so, I've had a new respect for the prequels because they feel like something with artistic integrity. Fault, but artistic integrity. Sorry, I talked way too long. Somehow I went on a big, gigantic rant there. What's your take on Disney Star Wars versus the prequels?
No, don't apologize. I was really into that rant. That was great. I agree with you. Even rewatching Phantom Menace in theaters, there were just so many things that are just so iconic about it. The pod race, for example. Wow. What is it? Like a 10, 15-minute sequence of just like racing, but it's so captivating. And there's a story within that. It's not just, here are pods racing. Like, I hate all the flack that Jake Lloyd, young Anakin Skywalker, got. Because I thought he was really good in the film. Like, he's a cute 9-year-old, who's like playing the role. And even like, like if you think about the pod race, you have this 9-year-old kid, like real life 9-year-old kid sitting in a cockpit, green screen with like giant fans blowing on him. And George is like, okay, like now, like you got hit. Now, like you lost your reactor shield or something. I don't know. And he has to like do all these like emotions with that. Like, that's really cool. And it's like, there's imagination. There's innovativeness. That's the word I'm looking for, right? Yeah.
Well, you should even think it is innovative. I don't know if innovativeness is a word, but I know what you think. You think like what race in a movie moved at that speed prior to that film? You think like that scale, that like flying through things.
So cool.
There wasn't a way to do that prior to the CGI advancing to the point that they could do that. And so you just have the most high-octane race we've ever seen in a movie at that point in time. And 25 years later, it's still a very entertaining, high-energy sequence.
It looks great. And like this is like, I nerd out about this, but as someone who played the Lego Star Wars game first,
Yep.
I've played the pod race game in Lego Star Wars a million times. And anytime I watched a pod race in Phantom Menace, it's amazing how they designed that Lego game, the pod race, like to look exactly like, George created a path in the pod race, like, and then you have like the same caves in the Lego game and the same ramps. I'm like, that's so cool. The attention to detail. And also, I'm sure you know this, and I don't know the exact number, but like a lot of people are like, the Phantom Menace was all green screen and whatever, but Phantom Menace had the most sets and scales, right, of any Star Wars movie. Was that the thing?
I couldn't comment specifically on that, but that, like, the later movies, they went full CGI environments, green screen environments, but I mean, there were a lot of sets there.
Yeah, I think it was. They used more practical sets than any of the original trilogy films. Like, I mean, there was a lot of CG,
right?
But
it's a huge film. Like,
yeah.
You think they're on multiple planets, multiple environments in each one of those planets, and so like there's just a lot that's there.
For sure. For me personally, I'd love to hear like your thoughts, because there's so many elements about the film. For me personally, the stuff that I resonated with, it just felt the most real, because yes, some of the dialogue could be a little McClunky, as Greedo would say, but
That's one of the fact that McClunky was something added later on. And whenever it happened, I was like, that became a joke in my house. I showed it to my kids, like, "Hey, George Lucas, somebody decided to make one more change to Star Wars, McClunky." And like, wait, what? Why did they add that? It's one of the life's great mysteries. We will never know how there was a person out there that went, "You know what Star Wars is missing? McClunky."
Well, I just think it's funny how like, George will like maybe he's just like in bed one night and he's like, "You know what we need in A New Hope? We need a giant CG the slug walking across the screen covering half the frame." That's what we're missing.
These are just amazing ideas. Good job, George.
Good job, George. But
you were saying what you respect.
Yeah. My favorite stuff was, especially like as a young kid watching it at the time, and even till now, the stuff with Anakin and his mother is so good. Mm-hmm. It's so good. It feels so real, and it's such a like, you have the lightsabers, you have the Star Wars-ness of it, but like mother son we didn't see in the original trilogy, and we got that in Phantom Menace. And I think Phantom Menace, correct me if I'm wrong, Phantom Menace is the only film that's really we get a lot of father son. Sure, there's Leia and Kylo. I feel like Phantom Menace really, like, the mother son, like that. My favorite scene of the movie is Anakin saying like, "I can't do it, Ma. I can't go," and then she's like, "Just go, be brave, don't look back." And then the Force theme starts playing, like, ooh, so good for me. I don't know, what do you think about that?
If she hadn't done that, all those kids would have been slaughtered by Darth Vader. She's responsible for this. Bad parenting. Sent off her child with some man she met the day before. What kind of parent is this?
He could have, maybe he wasn't a Jedi. Who knows?
Yeah, he's just lying. Like, wow, this guy can really race. I'm going to take him off where you can make the real bets on Coruscant. Who knows? Yeah. So how do you respond to the things that people criticize about the film? The Jar Jar, the stepping in the poo, a little bit too much politics.
All right. Well, okay. So there's the Jar Jar and there's the politics. To start with the Jar Jar, Misa love Jar Jar. Misa love Jar Jar Binks. I grew up with him. And look,
that's what people my age don't understand, is that Star Wars was made for the whole family, and so they've always had very kiddie elements. Whether C-3PO, R2-D2 are very kiddie, then Ewoks. Jump forward, then you get Jar Jar. This is not like new that there's a very silly character that kids connect with.
For sure.
I had grown up, and more importantly, the people that saw Star Wars when they were 20, Phantom Menace comes out, they're now 40, and they're like, what is this? Misa step and poo-poo. Like, what is this? Well, right, because you're older now, and that stuff is always in there. I think Jar Jar is more juvenile. I think there's more faults with it, but and maybe he's too prominent. Maybe there's too much slapstick. But I think that treating it as if one misstep or overdone comedic relief character ruins a movie, I think we're overstating things a little bit.
Yeah. Personally, I don't have a problem with it. Maybe it's just because I like Jar Jar, but it's
you like poo jokes.
I like
slapstick. The part goes like that's your sense of humor. I could do that more in here if you want to laugh more.
Yeah, that was good. Misa boss that. Yeah, I mean, I think what why I think it's fine is because like Qui-Gon and Anakin and Obi-Wan. And everybody else, like, they're kind of like, what are you doing? Like, they're not like feeding into it, and it's not this whole comedic thing. You just have this one really goofy guy, and they're looking at him like don't, like, Qui-Gon, like, don't do that again. Don't stop. I don't know. I feel like it's fine. And I mean, okay, look, I know like this doesn't have anything to do with like the story in the movie. But for me, the Darth Jar Jar theories just make him like so much better. And did you see that Lego trailer? There's this like new Lego thing coming to Disney Plus, and Darth Jar Jar is actually a thing.
I saw that the trailer dropped, but I haven't actually watched it yet. So,
dude, Darth Jar Jar is a thing in this thing. You gotta see it. Like I love the idea of Darth Jar Jar. I know it's not real or whatever, but like I think it makes it a little more like engaging. Have you seen those videos? Like why Jar Jar is so good. Yeah. Like he does a flip, or like when he like waves his hand like he's mind tricking. It's so funny. What do you think of? Oh, sorry, go.
No, I didn't have something to say.
Oh, okay. No, I was just gonna ask you what you thought about okay, because when you watched a film, like what was like going on with Ahmed Best and Jake Lloyd, because those two got the worst of it in terms of criticism. Like what are your thoughts on that, and like what was going on at that time from your perspective?
Like how did they receive it, or do you mean how do they
like
what was the fan like?
Yeah, like
it's a little bit tricky because one of them is a child and one of them is a grown man, and a child trying to, oh wow, I'm going to be in a Star Wars movie. This is the greatest thing ever, and then people single him out while he's still figuring himself out, and it so much defines his life.
Oh God, yeah.
I was in Star Wars and people didn't like me, versus a grown man that probably had not, like, he'd been trying to get work. He finally gets some work. He goes, okay, I got a nice payday. I've made my mark on acting. It's unfortunate that a lot of people didn't like me at the time and made fun of me, but I did what I was hired to do. Like, it's a job. And criticism hurts no matter what, but you know how to categorize it when you're an adult, and it doesn't define you the way what happened to Jake Lloyd would define him.
For sure. Were you seeing that, like, that backlash online?
Well, so, I mean, there wasn't online like there is today. Because the part where you have kind of the discussion online, social media, that started to come about more like 2003. You start having more and more prominent message boards, and you start having the early social media. But the running online discourse that we see now was very much in its infancy, and so it was kind of a very different version of it. You couldn't discuss it the way that, like, you think even what we're doing right now, you couldn't talk to someone with a video chat and throw it on the internet in 99. That was 10 years away or whatever. And so it was more, it it played very differently in the way that it played out. But like as soon as the movie came out, it's like the kid's a little wooden and Jar Jar's stupid. That was a just common perspective on Jar is like just very juvenile humor, and it's part of the problem with Jake Lloyd isn't Jake Lloyd. It's that George Lucas decided to make Anakin 9. So whoever you cast in that role, doesn't matter how good they are. There's not a lot of 9-year-olds that like you don't. It's a tough sell to see the Dark Lord as a cute 9-year-old. It doesn't serve Darth Vader. And that's kind of the point, is to show, hey, he's a person too, and he was a kid just like everybody else. He had a mom. He built little projects. We build Lego sets. He built C-3PO. Like, hey, we're all a little different. But you like it doesn't. Do you actually want to see that? Does it really work in the continuity? Can you? Is it too big of a leap? And it kind of feels that way. In the reality, Hitler at one point in time was a cute 9-year-old. Like, in reality, that's a thing. Turned out to be like, but seeing it doesn't. It plays weird. The reality of a cute child is going to be a genocidal maniac. And so, no matter who they cast, I think it was going to be a problem for that reason. And it's not like I've even said many times, I think that they probably should have made Anakin Luke's age in that film and really mirror the two. And so you make him older, so all the things that he does play a little bit better, because it makes more sense that he's racing. It makes more sense that he has an engineering mind. And then you can actually build out the romance with Padme because they're the same age. Yeah. And then you swap Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan. So Obi-Wan is the one bonding with him in that movie. And so you get bonding time in the film rather than he bonds with a character that we kill off, which doesn't. You just lost a movie of building one of the most important relationships because you had Qui-Gon there with Anakin rather than the person that has a history with him.
I agree.
All that to say, Jake Lloyd sucks.
No, literally, I agree. I love the prequels, but I can look at it from the sense of like, certain things that could have been done better to really like tell a great story. And I agree. I love Jake Lloyd, young Anakin, but a 13-year-old, 16-year-old Anakin, meeting him could have been cool because like also, what I'm thinking is like, teenagers. I mean, you have kids, I do. Yeah.
I'm a year away from a teenager. 1 year and I will have a teenager in my home.
You're almost there. Get ready. No, like, but
and then the middle child, she's been a teenager since she was 4. So,
yeah, like you have like the like the mood swings and all of that. So it's like that could like be a good Anakin. You could kind of get some of those like dark flavors rather than from a cute little 9-year-old. And I also agree with you that I love Qui-Gon Jinn, love him. But the Qui-Gon Anakin relationship was developed really well. There was no Obi-Wan Anakin relationship in that first film. In the second film, they're split up for a lot of time. Yeah. Even the third film was good. They had their moments, but they're also split up like certain points. And the whole "you were my brother" we really saw in that third film, but not like there could have been more. There could have been like the stuff in the Clone Wars where you have like those like intimate scenes, like that could have been really fleshed out. And
so my pitch for the prequels as a whole: make Anakin older in the first one. Obi-Wan is with him on the planet. End of the movie, the clones show up. Qui-Gon, it goes to Coruscant while Obi-Wan is on Tatooine. He tells the Jedi, and they recruit the clone army to battle the droids on Naboo. So the end of Attack of the Clones happens at the end of Phantom Menace. So the Clone Wars starts at the end of that film. Attack of the Clones is then Clone Wars the movie. It's all about them as heroes and stuff like that. And during it, basically one of the issues, Anakin comes from a slave planet. He was a slave, and as he matures, he realizes that the Jedi who claim to be the good guys have bought a slave army of troops that exist. They are created to die for them, and he believes that's immoral. And so there's a moral complexity to him that draws him to the dark side, and that there's a nobleness to what he does. He goes to a dark place for a noble reason, because the Jedi have compromised themselves by choosing to use a clone army. But you have a whole movie that's about the bond between them, and it's the Clone Wars, the movie. You actually see the Clone Wars for a movie, and then the third film, the fall of Anakin, happens sooner in the film, so the whole back half is Anakin as Vader in the suit, tearing the world apart.
Oh, you think him in the suit? Or that's what you
Just
would
more
want?
of it.
So,
more of it. Like, yeah, to pay, like, in that context of, like, maybe the Mustafar battle happens... Like, you just shift a lot of Revenge of the Sith. You just shift it like this, so some of that is in movie 2. Mustafar is our first... It's like our inciting incident. That's almost like our thing that happens 40% of the way through the story, so that we have that epic battle, and then we have, like, Vader, Force Unleashed, tearing dudes apart, full form revenge mode, slaughtering part of Order 66.
Interesting. Wait, I wanna get more clarification on your idea of the end of the third. So, okay, because if we look at how Revenge of the Sith actually ended, you know, Anakin goes in the suit, Obi-Wan brings the kids to the planets, and then, like, boom, like, that's your ending, setting up A New Hope. So if you're, like, saying have that midway into the film or 40% in, then what would, like, the later half be, like, story-wise, like, other than Vader?
I don't know. That's the advantage of just pitching crap. I don't have to have a story. All I do is I throw an idea out there and people go, oh, that'd be really cool. Oh, I would like to see that. If you don't have to come up with a story, you sound like a genius. That's the hard work. That's why all these screenwriters are brilliant and like, this guy doesn't know how to write. Like, no. It's really tough to come up with a story to pull together all of your good ideas, and you want to balance having a compelling story that flows properly with also having all the ingredients. But I like so back like 5 years ago, I did a video how to fix Phantom Menace, and in it I pitched a more elaborate version of what I said.
I gotta watch that.
That's great. Now, what's your pitch for Attack of the Clones? It's taken me 5 years not to make it because what I just like. I threw out the plot of the Attack of the Clones. It's easy to look at Phantom Menace and say, make him older, switch this around. And so you already have to... I'm borrowing Lucas's story. But then I threw his story out for Attack of the Clones, so I have to come up with my own story, and I don't have one. So that's the hard part. That's the hard work. So I tore the whole thing apart. And I can say big ideas that I want to do, but I don't actually have a full pitch on you. Well, we're almost at 30 minutes on this deal. This went, like, we literally were just talking about YouTube, and then I was like, let's shoot a video real quick. What were we talking about? Oh, wait, you saw Phantom Menace last weekend? Let's talk about that. And I thought it was going to be like 7 minutes. Here we are, 30 minutes later, still talking about it.
This is what happens.
So, if you had a closing thought on your thoughts on the legacy... as the person, the generation behind me, could try and sell cynical people my age on the prequels, your younger perspective as someone that grew up on Lego Star Wars with the prequels as just part of it, all kind of combined together.
Yeah, I just think it's fun. It's the world building, the characters, the Jedi.
Jedi is in full force. That's what I meant to talk about in here. Jedi in full force. Like the
Love that.
Darth Maul fight scene. Like, some people are like, it feels too choreographed. Like, it's like they already know what they're going to do. Like, right, they're Jedi. That's the whole point. Like, it's extremely fast moving and acrobatic because they're force users. They're force sensitive. They know where the person is about to swing. So you like the overly choreographed, like telegraphed moves at this crazy pace. In this context, it actually makes sense, and you can do things that you can't do in any other movie with choreography.
For sure.
Sorry, I cut you off.
No.
You were supposed to be selling me, and now I'm selling you on it. It's backwards.
No. It's fine. I agree with that point, and I think what the Phantom Menace and a lot of the prequels do well that Disney hasn't really been doing well is because they're getting such great lightsaber swordsmen, with Ewan McGregor, Hayden Christensen, Ray Park. There's none of this shaky cam, multiple cuts to hide the choreography. George Lucas will literally have these,
Well, like with the Mustafar fight, Hayden and Ewan were so excited about it. They trained for 3 months for one scene in the movie. And they were pumped to do it. They're like, this is like the culmination of everything. This is what everything, the heart of Star Wars, this broken brotherhood. And so this battle is the outward representation of this inward conflict they're facing. And so both of them were all in 3 months of training to make it the most epic sword fight ever put in a movie.
And I think I read something that they actually were like going too fast, that it looked like it was sped up, which is crazy. No. It's bizarre. And there's none of this shit.
What's where you think like a camera is at 23 frames per second. Yeah. So there's a point in time where you're moving and if you're doing it, it doesn't, you have to slow down so you can actually, for the camera to pick it up properly, because it just looks like blurs. And like if you know what you're doing right, you start doing stuff like that.
And it's crazy. And like those fights were just so legendary. They were iconic because you saw the fights. There weren't all these cuts, which Disney, like a lot of the people that are being brought on for these films, the choreography is not the same, and they do all these cuts, and you lose sight of like, where's this person? But George can just get a wide of, and where everyone is as they're doing the fight. So lightsaber choreography, the start of the world building, introducing characters like Qui-Gon, Obi-Wan, Darth Maul, setting up Palpatine as like, the senator, and then like, he's really the emperor, like so dope. It just really expanded the universe. I'm not too fond of all the politics stuff. I do like that it's there, but I think it could have been done a little differently, especially for a movie that's like, more geared towards kids, like, the opening.
So this is the other part of my pitch, is that you take all that Senate stuff at the back end of the movie and you split up Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan so they happen parallel. So Qui-Gon is on Coruscant, and so you get like a 1 minute scene of the Senate stuff, and then we have the pod race.
Oh, that's such
and then
a good
you have
idea.
a 1 minute scene on Coruscant, and then so you have a back and forth. So instead of it being like fast pace, we got the pod racing, and then we're battling Darth Maul in a desert, and then we're going to sit down for 20 minutes.
Yeah, 100%.
And discuss trade routes or whatever. But you split it up.
I think that's a brilliant idea, because that part like loses me, because you're already like at the end of the film. We're waiting for it to really pick up, and then it's like, okay, let's sit down, politics, and you don't even really see Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan and any of that stuff. It's like, you split it up in the film that way, because like then you lose the audience. Like interchange it also that way, because you are spending a lot of time on Tatooine. Like a lot of the film is like our ship crashed and we're just stranded here. So it's kind of like, in a sense, even though we're meeting Anakin, it's important. In a sense, we're kind of away from the plot. The plot is like to stop the trade route and all that, and the blockade. But like that's like a whole like hour 15.
Then we go to the whole middle is a subplot about this kid named Anakin. That is a subplot in the film.
Yeah.
He's the center of the saga, but in the movie, in the plot of this film, all of that is a subplot.
Yeah.
So it means we push pause on the main storyline. So once again, instead of that, you have Qui-Gon over here negotiating, trying to get something to happen, hence leading to, this is where you can also introduce the clone army or whatever it needs to be, and you have all this happening.
The main plot.
Major things happening. The main plot, big pieces happening through the other characters, and then you have the subplot about Anakin, where you actually have action kind of taking place. But through these other scenes, you have the plot itself, you're engaging with it during the middle hour of the film.
I agree, and then you can have a really impactful scene at the end where Obi-Wan talks to Qui-Gon. Is like, look, I discovered this kid, and I think he's extremely special. And then maybe Qui-Gon says something like, yeah, well, like I'm already your master, like you can't take on an apprentice. Like it's like, I'm ready, master, I'm ready. And like I need to train. Maybe it's like Obi-Wan. If Obi-Wan is the one that says, I want to train this kid, it puts the responsibility on him when Anakin turns. I think we just wrote it for them, Sean. I think we just solved it.
Yep. Like if only they had hired me and you back in 1997.
Before I was born.
You -7 years old or whatever.
Yeah, literally. Then all the problems
we could have done all this.
Solved. Yeah.
All right, where can we find you on the internet? All this to say, hey, it's got its issues, but it has a lot more offer than a lot of people give it credit for. Where can we find you on the internet, sir?
Exactly. You can find me, Cobra Kai Kid, on YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, but Cobra Kai Kid on YouTube is the main one. Thank you so much, Sean. I really love talking to you about Cobra Kai, but also this was a great Star Wars chat.
Right, our little 9-minute video turned 4 times longer than that. It's 36 minutes long now. Woo.
This is fun
I'm sure we'll talk again when we get some Cobra Kai content and when we get this exciting new Karate Kid movie with the karate man being trained by a little teenager.
At the pizza shop.
At the pizza shop. I'm excited for it. Hey, thank you so much. And everybody, keep talking movies and TV too much. Bye-bye.